Are we content to bias also in the AI world, in the new informatic world? Or we can do something to avoid this?
I think what is happening is we are reflecting our own societal and systematic biases in the AI, right? Modern AI is just machine learning, where it trains from the data we provided, right? And this data we are providing, in many cases, are biased. We have seen this with the Amazon's AI recruitment tool, which they came up with. Their idea was to hire best engineers using this AI tool, but it was hiring only, recommending only male white candidates regularly, and then they realized that the data they used to train was from male white candidates, right? Similarly, there was this Combus, which was a recidivism system, which for parole recommendation for paroles in US, which ended up doing very injustice to the black community, black prisoners compared to others. So the AI machine learning models are reflecting the biases we have systematically, and it's not just our problem is we perceive this bias as just a technical thing, right? It's not the statistical bias in the data. There is a systemic bias, the historical bias we carry on, that can be gender, race, or any other form of biases. Then the human bias, the human who is behind the code, right? The person who is making it, like I mentioned, right? You have a hammer, but the person who is holding the hammer can decide whether to put it on a nail or put it on a person's head. So as humans, we have so much biases, like the Dunning-Kruger effect, angering effect, Sanko's fallacy. So these things and the societal consideration, they all comes into, when these things are there, it's hard to come and say that we will come out of AI bias. But I think we have to live with bias. But it's about figuring out that when someone apply for a loan application or a medical recommendation is coming regarding a treatment cycle, it comes as rational, as logical as possible, rather than taking into any of these other external factors into account.
You think informatics is an instrument of liberty or is a risk for the liberty? It's a big instrument of control also.
Yeah.
It depends from the regime and so. So what can do your researcher, the community of the researcher, to avoid this risk?
So we have seen, if you look at China, what China is doing, right? So we have now what we call the large language model buzz around us, ChatGPT being the major one. So these generative AI models, we are still figuring out how to use it. Like I mentioned, yesterday a judge in Colombia used ChatGPT to get a verdict, which is, it can have very dire consequences. At the same time, China has came up with a law to control generative AI, right? The algorithm should be audited. The whatever is mentioned, it shouldn't contain certain phrases. So if you look at countries like China, it uses AI as a tool, like you mentioned, to control liberty, to keep its people in a way restricted, right? So it's about, or if you look at the other side of the world, we can use AI as a tool of freedom and liberation. Again, same tool, ChatGPT. So if you look in 1990s, if somebody want to write, let's say, an essay on nuclear fusion, he has to go to a library, and if the library is good enough, you will find one book, right? Or if he's a rich person, you might have access to encyclopedias, or if you are in the academia, you might access the journals. Now, if you ask me, to write a paper on nuclear fusion, I can just look up in Wikipedia, look at the sources, look at the internet, and I can write an essay on it. So the internet, the Google, the Wikipedia revolutionized information. Now, what is happening with AI is revolutionizing other things, right? So, for example, even if someone who doesn't have a good grip on English or good grip on writing, now they can express their ideas properly, bring out their theories properly with the help of this kind of language tools. So they are, in a way, they are a tool of liberation, right? At the same time, it can be used to oppose liberation as well.